Welcome back to the Real with Joseph Lappin. I am Joseph Lappin. Hope you guys having a great Monday. Welcome into the Real. If you're new here, please like, subscribe, and share. I'd really appreciate that out of the way in here. And shout out to all the subscribers, the people who have been supporting us since day one and have come along the ride, along the journey, along the way. I appreciate all you guys. And yeah, so got a packed show today for you guys. It's Mock Draft Monday. This will be the 4.0 edition. So I will have my fourth mock draft. Obviously, we're 10 days out now from the NFL draft on August. Whoa. Excuse me. No, we're not in August yet. April 23rd, 10 days away. It's next Thursday. So I'll have my 4.0 mock draft. And then the back end of the show, Humble and I will have another real life discussion about not living in the past. I think you guys will really enjoy that, and I've been looking forward to having those discussions with Humble. I know people have really enjoyed it. But we're going to start off today's show and get right to it. The Cavs. The regular season is over. All right, the Cavs have finished the regular season 52-30. So not a bad regular season for the Cavs. As long as they go over 50 wins, I was okay with that because they should be more a 50-win team, at least in my opinion, with the talent they have. Obviously, it was kind of a whirlwind of a year. Start off the season injured a little bit, not off to a good start. Remember December, there was a lot of chatter, about where the Cavs were. Should they break the team up? Darius wasn't playing yet. So the Cavs got a little momentum after Christmas, a little bit. Then they made those trades, obviously, before the All-Star break when they acquired James Harden, brought in Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder, which made their team better, obviously, trading away Darius Garland and DeAndre Hunter. And then they played a lot better basketball after that. And then the last kind of month of the season, they've, gets better teams. Haven't played the best at times. Sometimes they look good. Sometimes they don't look good. We've heard Kenny Atkinson put some comments out publicly, challenging his team publicly, especially on the defensive end of the floor. And, my stance on the Cavs going into this postseason, obviously they're going to play the Toronto Raptors starting next Sunday, I believe. So once the play-in stuff pans out this week, the Cavs will play the Raptors. Now, the Raptors are 3-0 versus the Cavs this regular season. They played Halloween night. Toronto won 112-101. They played in November twice. So they played 3 times here, all earlier in the season. And Toronto won all 3. And Toronto won the second game 126-113. Then they won the last game around Thanksgiving 110-99. So Toronto finished the year as 46-36 team, 5th seed. Pretty talented team, got a lot of youth. They got obviously RJ Barrett, they got Brandon Ingram, they got Scotty Barnes, they got Emmanuel Quickly, Jacob Pottle. They got a nice team. They're not a bad team at all. And one thing Toronto, I think, can exploit the Cavs on it, and give kudos to Jimmy Watkins at Cleveland.com. He put out an article that I thought was really good about this matchup. And it's kind of a lot of what I've been talking about all year, about how since going back to the Pacers series last year, which I can't believe we're already here again in the postseason a year later. It seems like yesterday when that was going on. But here we are again. And I feel like a year later, the Cavs obviously are a different team on the roster from a roster construction standpoint. They made a dramatic move, trading away their franchise point guard for James Harden and bringing in or trading Darius Garland for James Harden and then bringing in Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder, obviously. They're a different team, but one of the issues I feel like they haven't corrected throughout the season is their defense. And I think not having the guys on the perimeter that can really step up and defend one-on-one, but also in transition defense. That is their biggest weakness on their team. They settle for a lot of threes a lot of times. And I'll read the article. Jimmy Watkins put out a pretty good article today. He mentioned how the Cavs, in the beginning of this article, he mentioned how the Cavs, I think, finished 7th this year. I think 39 threes attempted a game. But a lot of times those threes turn into longer rebounds when you don't make them in teams. A lot of times, like we saw Indiana exploited it the most. And since then, last year, it's been the blueprint on the Cavs. Let them shoot themselves out of games and push the pace on them, and they don't get back in transition. And that's a lot of teams have been just beating the Cavs down and fast break and just, playing smarter, more efficient basketball, more 2s than 3s in the Cavs. And, I feel like Boston did it all year. And Boston's usually a team that's been jacking up a ton of 3s in the recent years. But every time they played the Cavs this year, they shot less 3s than the Cavs and beat them. So, I feel like that's one area. And then obviously one-on-one, when they get switched, when the teams target D Wade, they target James Harden, James Harden is great, has been offensively. He does not get back on defense, which kind of scares me. I think if there's one weakness, I think, is James Harden's transition defense because he'll shoot a lot of threes, step backs, but when he doesn't make them, teams whoever's guarding James, as soon as he shoots the ball, just leak out and be ready to look up because he's not going to be there, and it's a wide open, and it's going to be an easy just run into the basket, lay in, dunk, whatever you want to do. You can moonwalk in there and he can lay it in. I mean, he does not get back on defense at all. So that's one area where I feel like Jimmy Watkins pointed out today what I've been showing, or what I've been showing on film and what I've been discussing. My biggest issue and concern with the Cavs going into this postseason is still that. Kenny Atkinson, after the game yesterday, went on to talk about what's coming up here with the postseason. He said, quote, "We've been preparing it since the offseason. We started June, whatever the guys, even the young guys coming back, dealing with pressure, dealing with pace, improving our fitness. It was an off-season improvement area." So obviously Kenny's talking about the Pacer series last year. As soon as they lost that series, they got right to work in June. He went on, he said, "We're going to be tested. We're going to be tested, not just the physicality, but the fitness race. So we struggled last year with it. Let's see if we've improved." So a lot of what Kenny is saying is that he feels like they weren't as in shape as they needed to be last year. And that's why basically he's saying Indiana ran him out of the gym because they were better conditioned. I'm sure obviously Kenny knows his team better than anybody. I think that probably was a part of it. And going back and watching that series, I think, that definitely was the issue. And I think some of it also wasn't having an additional ball handler with Darius out. I feel like Kenny could have leaned on Craig Porter a little more, but that was back then. So I think that was part of it was conditioning. And Kenny has said when he's challenged the team like a month ago, he put out that statement saying that it's not a personnel issue. Basically, he was challenging the guys at top that we need to just man up and play better defense. That he said it's not a personnel thing. I think when it comes to transition defense, that's not a personnel thing. That's just a effort, coaching, culture. You got to want to have to get back on defense. That's a basic fundamental of team basketball is getting back on defense and matching up and calling out, communicating, calling out assignments, who has who, where's who at, who's cutting back door, right, and stopping the ball. And I think that's a basic thing that the Cat maybe Kenny feels that's a lot of it's that dude that they didn't get back was because they were just out of shape. Maybe guys are going one-on-one, selling for shots offensively when they turn around, they don't have enough energy to get back. Because a lot of times, great scorers, they put so much into the offensive end of the ball to try to be effective in games that they do tend to take defensive stretches off. Where it's like, all right, let me pace myself on defense so I have enough energy on offense. I think what Kenny was trying to say, we need to be a better two-way team, like we have energy on both ends for 48 minutes. I think it's part of that. I think also a lot of it's just, fundamentally, like I don't understand with the Cavs. Like if you're last back when you shoot, whether it's the shooter or whoever's last closest to the other end of the basket, as soon as you shoot the ball, that guy should be turning around and getting back and taking away the fast break. That's something I've never seen the Cavs really adjust to a whole lot. So I think part of it's that. And I think when it comes to actual half-court defense, I think one-on-one, they're going to get picked on a little bit. Some guys are going to get picked on. I think where the Cavs have to be better is not switching everything and being able to fight their screens, communicate, and, funnel the ball to certain guys that you rather them shoot the ball than the other team's best players. So I think that's one area where they really got to improve at. Shout out to Humble. We'll be up here in a second. But then Jimmy Watkins goes on in the article to say, essentially, if the Cavs can keep Toronto out of transition, then they shouldn't have much trouble in this series. Good thing the game slows down in the playoffs, right? Atkinson wanted to talk about that. He said, quote, "I don't know. We saw Indiana last year. They exploited that. So I don't know if there's there's absolutes anymore in the playoffs. I think the game changes so much. I don't think the Raptors are going to change. I don't think they're going to come in here and say, hey, you guys know it's the playoffs. We're going to slow up. He says, I would say they doubled down on that identity. So it's a good challenge for us. And that's one concern about, I think this could be a trap series for the Cavs because Toronto loves to push the pace. They got length on defense. They got size, athleticism. They could switch everything because they have guys that can switch around and they have length everywhere, but they can push the pace and they're athletic. And so I think the Cavs, in my opinion, to counter that is three things. Evan Mobley has to have a lot of minutes where Jared Allen's not on the floor. Why do I say that? Because you can feed him the ball inside. I like his matchup in this series personally down on the block. You get in the ball more in the paint or roll into the basket. Just get in the ball as much as you can around the basket. I think that's the most effective way, one way to stop that. Also, as a team, you can't jack up a lot of threes. If you're not hitting a lot of threes by the second quarter, or you're not hitting them, I think you should have the mindset going into we're not going to shoot as many threes as Toronto. Now, you may have a night where you get red hot. That's fine. But I think you need to be really calculated in terms of you have guys in Donovan and James Harden who can. I mean, look at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander last year. He won the finals and he shot like 12 threes for the whole series. Guy just killed him in the mid range. Well, Donovan Mitchell has a mid range jumper. James Harden is very good at getting downhill in the mid range, has a floater. I just think attack. The Cavs are a much better team when they play inside out rather than outside in. So I think that's the second thing they have to do. Third thing I think is Kenny Atkinson. He has to really put the best lineup packages he can possible. You got to have a mix of defense, and guys who can attack the basket at all times, I think. Guys who can penetrate, finish at the rim, and you got to have guys out there in the perimeter that can switch out and defend. And at least somebody's got to be out there, whether it's Keon Ellis, somebody. I don't know who. If you got to play Craig Porter, who I think is a pretty good defender all year, you got to put him out there in certain times. I mean, you got to be able to get stops and make them work for it on the offensive end. So I think those are the three things I would look at: efficiency, attack it inside, especially with Mobley, and I think your lineup pack. You can't have a lineup of Sam Merrill and Dean Wade out there at the same time. I'm sorry, with James Harden, that's gonna be a nightmare. So that's how I look at it in the series. Toronto, obviously, they finished the year. This is my last part I'll get to here before I bring my guys up here. Why I put in the thumbnail, right? If you go back to the thumbnail, the breaking point. This is the breaking point. What do I mean by that? Well, the breaking point obviously often means like immense pressure. Like this is it. It's time to show up. And I got James Harden in there. I got Donovan Mitchell, and I got Kenny Atkinson. Kenny Atkinson was brought here to help get this team over the hump in the postseason. Well, so far they haven't done that. They laid an egg last year, and the team, in my opinion, defensively has gotten worse under him. And he did improve in the offense in some areas, but in some ways, oftentimes they go back against better teams. They go back to one-on-one, and they shoot way too many threes. You can make an argument in some areas the team really hasn't improved that much under Kenny Atkinson compared to when JB was here, because they've gotten worse defensively, and the offense to me hasn't been as effective as on against the better teams when they need it to be when it matters most. And so this is it for all three of them. Donovan Mitchell. We always hear this talk about Donovan Mitchell saying, the Cavs always got to show him why he needs to re-sign here and stay here. Donovan Mitchell needs to show he's the guy worthy of re-signing. We know how good you are of a player in terms of on a regular season team. From the regular season, he could be the MVP of the league if you want it to be. Donovan's a great player, but in the postseason when it matters most, he's got to show up finally. He's got to close the deal. He can't come up short anymore. There's no more excuses. They went out and got you James Harden. They went out and got everything else they need around to support you guys around on this roster. You have Evan Mobley. You have Jared Allen. You have shooters. They brought in the coach you want. He has everything. They've done everything and bent over backwards for Donovan Mitchell. It's time for him to deliver now. James Harden. This is it for him. And Kenny and Donovan are the two I'm mainly saying it's a must. They must have a deep playoff run. They got to make the Eastern Conference Finals and be competitive. Now, James Harden, this is his last straw. And, if he wants the Cavs if I'm the Cavs, if you want us to re-sign you to an extension this offseason, you better show us why we should keep you around. Not just some guy that, who you have been. You're a great scorer, all-time scorer, but in the postseason doesn't show up. And, defensively, you're a big liability. And you're getting older. He has to show for himself and for his money this offseason. I think that no, I'm the guy you need to keep me around. And he better perform big in the postseason, especially in the big moments. And so this is the breaking point. And I think Kenny Atkinson, especially, his job, I think, is on the line because Donovan's under contract. James most likely is going to be back here from what it sounds like when they traded for him, unless he maybe just played absolutely horrific this postseason and they said we can't bring him back. But I don't see that. I think he'll at least be typical James. But Kenny Atkinson, the most, I think he has to win the most because at the end of the day, like I said, go back to what I just said. I think this team hasn't shown thus far the major improvement you're looking for when you got rid of JB and brought in Kenny Atkinson. JB went to Detroit and look what he's doing. They're number one team in the East and been kicking ass all year consistently. And they lost their best player for a span and still didn't drop off. So Kenny Atkinson has to prove himself. And I put this up here from back. This was back in December. Remember, I said the Cavs were 7th in the conference at the time. They were 15-14. They lost 8 of their last 11 games. They even lost matchups against the Hornets and the Bulls, who weren't great teams at that time. Especially the Hornets. They had the talent, but they weren't great at the time. And I remember Tim McManaman went on the podcast, the Hoops Collect podcast with Windhorse and the other guy, and Bontemps. And he said he added that Atkinson's job security is coming up, quote, in conversations around the league. So this was back in December when they were struggling. Now, obviously, they got better as the season went on and finished 4th in the conference and 52-30, and he kept his job, obviously. But I think this is where it's going to matter most for Kenny. If Kenny Atkinson falls short, if they lose to Toronto in round 1 or have a round 2 dud like they have the last X amount of years, Kenny might be out of here because you're in a win now mode. Donovan Mitchell's not getting any younger. James Harden's definitely not getting younger. He's got a couple years left. You just signed Evan Mobley a couple years ago. You got Jared out. Like, you got to win, bro. And there's no excuse this year. As great as the Pistons have been all year, they should not beat the Cavs in the postseason. Cavs are a much more talented team than the Pistons. Like, your goal is to compete for a championship. Now, I'll give my prediction what I think could happen later, but I think they should at least make the conference finals. And I know they got to go through Detroit and Toronto, which is going to be tough. But if you make it through those two teams, I think you can beat anybody to make it to the finals. Now, will they win the finals against the Thunder? Whoever, I don't know. But, you're going to probably run into Boston in the conference finals. Like, this is the year you got to show up. There's not a definitive favorite in the East. It's wide open. Go take it. But if you fall short again, I think we might be seeing changes here in Cleveland. So that's my take on this. I know a lot to unpack there, or a lot I broke down. But yeah, that's where I'm at on it. But I'm gonna get my guys up here now to get their take. Joining me now, you've seen him a lot recently. Put out his first video last week. HumbleMan MMA, UFC was over the weekend. It was a great card, one of the best heavyweight fights of all time. So I'm sure he'll have a reaction video coming out about that soon and what's coming up in the UFC. But Humble's in the building. Lyria's finest. What's happening?
What's happening, everybody? I hope everyone's having a fantastic Monday.
Absolutely. And joining us now, Humble. He's been MIA for a little bit. We were wondering if he was still around.
Yeah.
But Batman went to his cave, and now he's back. And Tune In Sports is in the house. Tune, what's happening?
Salute, man. I appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
Tune, we're glad you're still here. We were
I'm still here. I'm absolutely here, man.
We were wondering if you got just, Humble and I at one point said, well, we wonder if Tune just gave up rooting for the Cavs when he just he's a whole nother YouTuber now. We don't even know about it. He covers the Warriors now or something.
Oh man, imagine. And probably another universe, probably.
Yeah, like we thought he just gave up. Like he just had it. So, but gentlemen, I appreciate you for taking time to come up here today.
Yeah.
Tune, I'll go to you first since we haven't heard from you in a while, brother. I guess kind of you heard my take on why I think this is the breaking point for Kenny Atkinson and Donovan Mitchell. What's your reaction to what I had to say and just your take on this series coming up with the Cavs and the Raptors?
But yeah, I think you had some good points, man. I think this is it, man. The regular season, it don't matter comments. I think it's finally like it's over now. So this is it. This the playoffs. It's finally put up or shut up with these guys. Kenny Atkinson and his group, they got to get it done. Donovan, he has to get out obviously the second round. I think him and James Harden both got something to prove. James Harden got to prove that that was wrong, and Donovan got to prove that he get out the second round. And Mobley, who's been better as of late, he got to show up too in this playoffs, man. But the Raptors, I mean, they have talent on this team. They're a young, talented team. I think our bigs could get them inside the paint, man. I think we should have an inside out type of game. We have the skill set, we have the talent on this roster to basically beat this team, man. But I'm kind of surprised. I'm really surprised because I've been seeing a lot of not a lot, but I've seen some Cavs fans they calling sweep or Cavs in 5, and I'm just like, I'm like, I don't know, man. Like the Cavs, they should be confident in this series, I feel like, but not overconfident because I do believe like this Raptors team, they can, push the Cavs to 6 games. Like this is a Raptors team that they didn't have high expectations coming into the season, like to compete for a championship or anything like that. But they improved from last season, going from 30 to 46 wins. So that was a big jump for them, within itself. And then you added a star player like Brandon Ingram, who we talked about before on the platform about bringing him to Cleveland. I know some of y'all was like, no to BI when the trade discussions came up. But yeah, I like Bi, man. I think he could get buckets on his Cavs defense. I don't know if that if you put Dean Wade on him or whoever you put on him. I think Bi could still get his. Bi is a scorer, and I think they lead in scorer over there. But yeah, and you could say that they are like, if you want to say they're the more physical team, we got to see what the Cavs do, how they handle this team in the playoffs, because you're gonna have to match the physicality. Obviously, the playoffs is the playoffs, and the game slows down. So maybe you want to lean towards Toronto being a more physical team, but I think the Cavs could match the physicality. Um, and the Cavs, like you brought up their defense. The Cavs, they've been called out for their defense and guarding the three. But the Raptors, they not the best 3-point shooting team. So I think they at the bottom. I forgot where they ranked at, but they at the bottom. And I believe that they do have guys that can shoot, but they not the best 3-point shooting team, man. Maybe IQ, aka quickly, maybe he gets going, but I think we could win in that spot. But they can pose a threat to pushing the Cavs, you know, past 5 to maybe 6 games, if all that happens and they get out in transition, which you make Toronto, you stop them in transition, you make them half court team. They're not really great, late executing, So I think we got Toronto, man. My thing is I don't want to like. I think Toronto's gonna like play the Cavs super tough. I think the Cavs gonna punch them in the mouth, but I think Toronto gonna play them super tough. I just don't want to be overconfident. I think we should be confident in this team, but not overconfident. Because we seen what happened last year, right, with the Pacers and everything. And yeah, you could say the injuries and all that stuff, but we seen what happened. So I don't want to go coming in this like everybody else saying Cavs in 5 or whatever. I want to give Toronto um, you know, some respect, like because they are a young, talented team, and Scotty Barnes haven't played since his rookie season, I believe, because the Raptors have been in the playoffs. So some of these guys been in the postseason, but they still don't have the experience that some of the guys on our team has. But I just want to give them that respect. I don't want to come in the series being overconfident with the Toronto Raptors. I do think the Cavs will win the series, obviously. So yeah, they just Cavs got to make sure they handle their business. That's what I gotta say.
Humble.
Yeah, man, I think Toon did really good, and you followed up on. I mean, Toon followed up on what you said, but I think when I think about it from last year, maybe we overachieved, right? We had that 60 something record, right? Or is that that's right? So we had 64 wins, right? Something around there.
Uh, yeah, last year I think they were the hottest team through the East Conference all year, if I remember
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Them and the Thunder.
Yeah.
right. So it's kind of hard to match that, and I kind of was unrealistic. I kept saying to Tune on this channel that we could be the first seed, and I know that we could always be the first seed. It's just how we play, and I guess it didn't matter that we had first seed last year. And I'm looking at this record. Like you said, 50 wins. We could live with that. Well, above more than 50 wins, and I'm thinking about James Harden's aura and what he brings to this team. I know people are going to go quick to, oh, he's, playoff James Harden. I'm not worried about that. I think that James Harden's leader ability, um, we shouldn't be worried about that. If anything, we should be pointing the finger at Donovan Mitchell, like you said. This is his team. James Harden is here to uh, basically dish out great assist and make the bigs bigger. And when I think about it from that perspective, who's that number one big that we drafted in 2021? Evan Mobley. Well, Evan Mobley, I feel as if he should have won Rookie of the Year. Well, he's got to show why he's better than Scotty Barnes in this playoff series. That's how I'm looking at it. I think we'll win 6, if not 7. We'll win in 6 or 7. It should be a tough series, but I don't think we get kicked out of the first round at all.
Yeah, I feel like I like the point you guys brought about the physicality. And that's where I go back to Donovan and Kenny. Obviously, Kenny's the coach of the team. He's got to set the tone each game. And then obviously Donovan, I think his leadership, you're looking at, you got to lead by example. And I think set the tone. If you go out and hard foul a guy, not saying hurt a guy, but you got to go out sometimes and set the tone for your team early on. I don't have a problem with it. But I think that's the one thing. Like, I know, like, in the past couple of years, going back to the Knicks series they lost, I've guys on my show, Toon and I have talked about it. It's a lot of times the Cavs look like a finesse team, like a soft finesse team. They want to hoist a lot of threes, and they play just kind of sometimes they look lethargic in the postseason, no effort on defense, and then they just let teams just bully them. And so, I think the guys you brought in Schroeder and Ellis, I'm really looking at those two guys especially. If I'm looking at like our roster, like who are two guys off the bench I think could really set an edge and a tone in a series. Dennis Schroeder's always been a pest. I think Keon Ellis can definitely be that. Those are two guys. If I'm Kenny Atkinson, I need Donovan to show it, but also I gotta have two guys out there that are just kind of junkyard dogs in a way. I mean, I obviously you need Dennis to be good on defense, be a distributor on offense, score a little bit. Keon needs to be a good two-way player, hit his threes, and be a lockdown defender. But I need those two guys to go out there and have a little edge. Remember last year when we played the Pacers, they had that James Johnson who wasn't very, an effective player statistically, but he went out there later in that series and just, some hard fouls here and there, some players, like they had somebody. We had nobody. We had Dean Wade. That's who we had. And, Dean Wade's a nice guy. That's just not who he is. So like I watched the game last week. They introduced the lineup and they said one of the guys for, I think it was Prime on Amazon Prime said that, Dean Wade's the glue guy. Like, if that's the glue guy, we're in trouble. I mean, the only thing he needs to be gluing is a fence. So, he's nice off the bench, but I'm saying we got to have our best guy. I think Larry Nance should play more in this series because I think he's played Larry more recently, and I think Larry's been okay. I think the team's better with Larry in there than Dean Wade. But Larry at least.
Hey Joe, I'm about to disagree, man.
I don't think so. Dean Wade to me, if he's not hitting the three, he gives you nothing. He no defense. He's gonna get beat up on the rebounds. At least with Larry, he has playoff experience. Like, I'm not playing him heavy minutes, but at least Larry's gonna go out there and play cerebral basketball and be a little more high IQ. I think he's better defensively. And I'm not. Larry is Larry what he used to be? Absolutely not. He's not even close to that. But again, I think Kenny has got to figure it out. He's got to challenge those guys on the perimeter to go out and set an edge because we don't have the toughness, I think, in the middle of our lineup that we need.
We also have, I know he just came back from injury. I know he ain't mentioned his name. Jalen Tyson is a guy that, I was excited about. I know he could pick up the defensive intensity and stuff like that and what he brings on offense. He finally could get his time to shine in the playoffs finally. I'm not sure what Kenny going to do with that rotation or as far as is he going to start Dean Wade or Tyson or Max Hughes. I don't know what he does there or if it's a game-to-game situation, but he might, who knows, he might come in a situation starting Dean Wade just because, he liked Dean Wade defense and you might want to put him on BI or somebody.
I hope not. I'd rather go with Max Strus, honestly. I'd rather go with Max Strus.
I'd rather play Larry Nance.
I would. I'd rather play Larry Nance. I'd rather play who's Naquan Tomlin. I'd rather
Naquan Tomlin.
Hey, he had a nice game yesterday. I go with Naquan. I mean, I gotta have somebody that's physical, athletic, and plays with high energy. And Dean Wade, I'm not picking. He's just not a good defender. And he's just not as athletic as the other guys. He's not as coordinated as the other guys, I don't think. And I just, if he's not rebounding or hitting threes, he doesn't really give you a whole lot. And the tape shows, I mean, they just teams have picked on him relentlessly all year long. As soon as they look at the Cavs, they're like, if he's starting, he's at the top of the number one, who we're going to pick on tonight.
I like Dean, man. I just think, like you said, he's not. I like Dean Wade defense. I thought he did good. I forgot what team it was. Was it against the? I forgot who it was. But if he's not hitting shots, I agree. Like it's like he's just running cardio out there. Like he's out there 25 minutes and he have like a donut and like
Yeah.
you're not rebounding. Like what are you doing? You got to be giving me something out there, man. So it's like, yeah, I get that part, man. Like some people probably would rather see Tyson out there. Cause at least Tyson gonna bring it like on both ends of the floor.
Jalen Tyson has an opportunity to really make himself as a star name in this league this postseason.
Mm-hmm.
Like he has a chance to put his name up there, not as a superstar, like a guy. He's not like a franchise guy, but he's a guy that I think could be a very valuable role player in this league, one of the better ones. And he has a chance for postseason to really go out there because I think he might be the X factor. Honestly, if he goes out there and is a two-way dominant guy, that could really make up. Even if James Harden has a bad night defensively or isn't shooting well, or they're not getting what they need down low, if Tyson can. Yeah, this is a great opportunity for him. That's a good point with him. Humble, what do you think of that about Tyson?
Yeah, man, just make sure that toe's healthy. We don't want him to look like DG.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Don't want that at all. But I want to get your guys' thoughts. I thought this was a good article today from Jimmy Watkins at Cleveland.com talking about, remember last year the Cavs got killed with pace and in transition. I broke it down, and that's still an issue I think they've struggled with this season at times. I actually think James Harden has made it worse because he was about not get back on defense at all. That guy, he wouldn't even try to get back. As soon as he missed a shot, he just stands like, I'll just wait for the next until we come back down. But again, I'll read it again. He says essentially, if the Cavs can keep Toronto out of transition, they shouldn't have much trouble in this series. And then Kenny talked about it, how they got exploited there last year, and he expects the Raptors to not change their philosophy. They've been a high-paced team all year. To double down on. Now, like you pointed out too, and they're 21st in the league in 3-point percentage to shoot 35% as a team. But I think they're going to try to do what Indiana did and just attack like they did last year. Hit the basket and try to leak out and get out in transition. And I think one way to counter that is have more efficient offense. Now, Toon, you had an interview recently with Ryan Hollins, and I got that clip right here. I'm gonna play it because I thought Ryan Hollins really broke it down. What we've been saying for a while. How do you get Evan Mobley more involved? And I think this is a counter to stop teams from pushing the pace on you. It's play more inside out. Here's what Ryan Hollins had to say.
How would you use Evan Mobley and make sure you get the best from him this season? Because Donovan and Darius, they're the best players on the team, of course, best players on the floor. But do you think that Darius needs to take a step back and Mobley become like the number two, and Darius does what he does and facilitate and all that good stuff?
I think Darius can take a step back. I think he has a type of game where he wants to feed his bigs. When he's on the floor, those guys play well. He's kind of the engine that kind of gives up. He's playing that Memphis Mike Conley role, so to speak. But I think for Mobley, his scoring, he's going to have to be effective. He's going to have to, be physically stronger. I think this is now when you maybe go from potential to, hey, we expect you to be in the 17 to 20-point range. So maybe it's not the three ball, but he's going to have to go out and get busy on the block. He's going to have to be effective. He's going to have to have some strength so that he can get to the foul line rather than getting pushed off the spot. But I'm excited to see what this third year leap looks like for him. If he adds that strength, if he, improves upon his scoring. When I saw him, he got a little stronger, got a little bit meaner. And if he can continue making those strides, man, he's scary. He's a guy that can be right behind Nikola Jokic for the best big in the league with his type of talent. So I think the sky's the limit, but I think that team, again, goes as far as he takes them. So I think it may not be the spacing, but I think he's going to have to be able to score and then also, defend the paint so that maybe there may be situations where Jared Allen may have to sit on the bench. But I thought
And that was obviously via our guy Tuna in Sports. And Tuna, I'll let you go first. Since obviously you were the one that interviewed Ryan, but I thought Ryan made some great points. I thought the biggest thing he said there, even without the spacing, because I pointed out recently, I think without Jared Allen, his offensive production looked a lot better, just because I think he has more room to operate down there. He doesn't have to sit out and jack up as many threes he's had these certain games. But even with Jared Allen out there, I go back to Kenny Atkinson now. Kenny's got to make it a conscious effort to get him the ball down low in the block.
Yeah, I think you've been saying that. I think, yeah, I heard you say that a lot, just how you know, we want Evan Mobley to get busy inside, man. Put him on a block, man. Less threes. Like we wanted, but it's crazy because when in the beginning we wanted him to shoot threes. Even guys like Darius and the before teams was like we wanted Evan Mobley to stretch the floor out because of the spacing of the two bigs. But now we know Evan Mobley. We want his potential to go even further. We know he got the potential to be one of the best in the league. So stop shooting so many threes. Even though he can make the shot, but you need to be on a block, man. Take advantage of the mismatches and the smaller players. I still think he do have to get stronger, obviously, but yeah, Mobley on a block, man. I mean, he should take advantage of that. Coach Atkinson, like, get him the ball more. Um, and not less threes, definitely less threes, man. So yeah, I agree with that.
Humble?
Yeah, man. Basically, same thing Toon said. Um, he should be posting up and not really looking to shoot these threes. I mean, if he's open, whatever. But at the end of the day, I've seen him go into the post work and look way bigger than any other guy on the court. And I mean, if no one should be guarding him on the Raptors, as far as I'm concerned. If he's in his bag and just going straight to the basket, putting a shoulder into their chest, yeah, he should be outscoring everybody. That if he plays that way, that we all know him to be.
Let me ask you this, Humble, and Toon, you go right after. And this is not just this series. We'll see how this series starts off. But if we get to a point, let's say this series is tied 2-2, and Evans looked okay. But he's not really dominating down low like he should. He's not putting up the points that they need. And there's not really a paint presence. And they won it. Let's say they won 2 games at home. Maybe they split home games, right? But the Cavs are not really doing what they should do against Toronto. And I think part of that, like I just mentioned, is, getting Evan the ball. Should Kenny Atkinson for maybe the rest of the postseason, and this may sound crazy to some people, but I've heard this brought up, should he consider bringing Jared Allen off the bench and putting Mobley at the 5 and then bring Jared in off the bench? So now you have 2 guys, no matter who's out there, you got somebody down low. Because Jared, I think, has looked better too at times without Evan, or at least when he's fed the ball. Now his game's obviously a little different than Evans, but he could just find points just off of running the floor. That's what he's an off-ball guy. But which Evan can be too, but I think Evan needs to be more effective. He's more effective when he's given the ball more. But should Kenny Atkinson consider that at some point this postseason, where you just basically stagger the guys and you start Evan at the 5 and you bring Jared out the bench?
I mean, I've thought about that many as a times, but I think me and Toon have talked about that. I think Allen's on a contract where he's obligated to start in the contracts. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but he's expecting to start. He's expecting to get that Jared Allen 31. He wants that. He wants to hear the pop in the crowd and all that stuff, what have you. But I wish players would be able to step down and look at their role and be like, hey, I'm better off the bench with this second unit. But I just don't think it's going to happen. Honestly, even if Evan Mobley and Allen are in the game and things aren't going Evan Mobley's way, or even Harden and Mitchell's way, I would honestly consider feeding Allen. I would want the bigs to be our presence in the first round. That we get the boards, we get our bigs involved, we get to the second round, let our guards get explosive. That's how I'm looking at it. But I'll let Toon go after me.
I think honestly, I mean you could, like you say, stagger the minutes, but like it gives Evan, more space, obviously, man. But if he was to do that, I think it should be like not for a long time, and it all depends on like the matchups and stuff because Mobley and Allen together, they are the twin towers. They will like create that defensive force, like protecting the paint, especially against guys like Scotty and Bi, who's going to be attacking inside more than shooting threes, I believe. So I still like keeping them together, but I know you said if things don't go, Mobley way, will you consider it? It just depends on how the game going and what's the matchups, really.
Well, and it takes me back to 10 years ago. We won the championship, to 2016. You got to remember in that finals, there was a point where Kevin Love came out the bench in Game 3. And this is one of your big three members. This is the guy you traded Andrew Wiggins away for at that time. Was the two number one overall picks you traded away. They brought him off the bench. Remember that when Ty Lue put in Richard Jefferson.
Yeah, he did that more. He did that more than one time.
Yeah, he did it quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I remember that one in particular because I was in the middle of an NBA Finals at home, but they were down 0-2. They had their back was against the wall, but they had to win. It was a must win. And I think, at the Cavs lost that series, LeBron was probably gonna be out of Cleveland that summer because that was the last year of his deal. He probably would have forced his way back out. Ty Lue would have got fired, and they would have blew that whole thing up. And they had to win. Now I look at the Cavs now, and that's why I go back to my thumbnail. Why I'd say it's the breaking point. If I'm Kenny Atkinson, I would seriously consider that because I saw what Eben was the last month and a half. He's playing the best ball he's played maybe in his career at times. I think offensively, you look at the numbers he put up. 34 against Utah. He had some other big nights, but he's very efficient. He played the best ball, at least this season, in my opinion, that he played. But Allen wasn't out there. But I think because the formula you brought up, Humble, that should be their formula every series, I think. I think their best path to win a championship, or at least make it to the championship, is that formula. Because the other ways they've tried to play, the teams that are equal or better than them have beat them at their own game every time. And use it against them. I think they got to change it up. And if I'm Kenny Atkinson, my back's against the wall. I got to do whatever it takes. And if Jared Allen's got a problem with it, I'd be like, hey man, if Kevin Love, who's going to get his jersey number in the hall, he's get his jersey put up in the Raptors here. If Kevin Love didn't have a problem with it and they won a championship, then you just got to suck it up, bro. Because at the end of the day, it's about winning. Like you got to produce. I get the contract and everything we paid you and everything, but we're all our backs against the wall right now. We have not produced in the postseason. And I think Kenny, he's got to be the guy where it's like, hey, man, if I got to do certain things, so be it. If it makes the team better and helps us win, then do it. Yeah, to me, I think if it works, there's no brainer there. You should do it.
Yeah, I think that's something you could consider if it comes down to it, But I still, if it comes down to it. But like I said, with the defense, though, how would that affect the defense? Going against the Raptors and their guys, a lot of guys like to do the mid-range. We know B.I. like the mid-range. We know Scotty Barnes, he's not a three-point shooter. We could leave him open. But he's going to try to attack and, kick it out and find the open man. And, they have guys there. But, yeah, it all depends, though. But I still like Mobley and Allen together unless it comes to that. We have to bring Allen off the bench.
Shout out to Maddox Vashio. He said Cavs in 7. He said Cavs won't beat Detroit in the second round. I got Pistons in 6. If it's the Cavs versus Pistons second round, I got Pistons 6. Cavs don't scare me. Pistons versus Celtics Eastern Conference Finals. I think we've all are kind of in agreement here are we all in agreement the Cavs have to make the conference finals?
Absolutely. It'd be a disappointment if they don't. So they have to beat Detroit. You can't lose to Detroit.
And you can't lose to the coach you fired either.
Right. That's right. Exactly.
100%.
So we all agree they got to get to the conference finals. I think they got to get to the conference finals and be at least competitive. Like you can't just get blown out by the Celtics.
You got to get to the conference finals, yeah.
You got to get to the conference finals and go 6 games, I think, at least. Now, if they don't get there, let's say they fall short in the second round of Detroit, or if they somehow get upset by Toronto, or even they get blown out get blown off the floor in the conference finals by the Celtics. If you're Dan Gilbert, what do you do? Humble, you go first.
You know what I'm thinking? Probably call up our guy. Who Mr. 23 himself. We bring out the jerseys. We bring. We probably get another trade in there. LeBron will blow up something to do something crazy. Yeah, man. I think your best thing if we lose is call up our big man. I think we all know that.
Are you firing the coach?
Yeah.
All right, so
Kenny can go.
Kenny's out. Tim, what's your thoughts?
Man, I don't know about calling LeBron. I think you're gonna need more than LeBron if you go out like that against the Raptors, man. Yeah, if that happened, man, and I don't look forward to that happening, I'm looking for us to make a deep playoff run. But yeah, somebody gotta go. Somebody gotta get fired. Whether that's coaching, depending on who's playing in the series and how they playing, maybe you entertain, certain players being traded, and you look at Giannis or somebody. It all depends on what happens and how it happens. If Mobley don't show up, do you entertain Mobley? We visit that in the offseason. See,
I'll throw out another name. Kobe Altman, I think, could be in question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
somebody
and we've
fired.
already heard his name being mentioned possibly with the Dallas Mavericks, which I thought was kind of odd. I don't know if his agent's linking his name out there just in case. Like, he's another guy. I mean, he's the guy that put the roster together. I look at him too. I look at everybody. If they don't make to the conference finals, I'm looking at everybody.
Yeah, everybody got to be looked at. Nobody's safe. If they flame out, nobody's safe. Players, coaches, management, something has to happen. Obviously, like if that happens, which it shouldn't happen because we have high playoff hopes. We're not expecting to be losing in the first round or even the second round. And look, Detroit, I get it. They've been the best team, throughout the year. But I'm still not a believer in Detroit, man. And I don't think it's a good look for Donovan Mitchell to lose to the coach that supposedly, he got fired, right? Or Jared Allen to lose to, JB after the comments JB made about Jared Allen during the postseason with Lucas. So I think they will come in I don't know. I just have high hopes for the Cavs, and I think they will come in motivated for that Detroit series.
Yeah, you guys wanted them out. You better beat them.
Got to beat them, right? You can't.
Because if you lose to
the Cavs, that would be crazy.
If they lost, if I was Dan Gilbert, I'd say everybody get a bag and get the hell out.
Yeah, everybody. Kobe Altman.
This is fraud alert. No. But we'll end with this. And Tune, I appreciate your time. I know you got to get rolling here.
Yeah.
Humble, you go first, my brother. Your prediction for the series?
Probably win 6 or 7. We'll win in 6 or 7.
So you got the Cavs at 6 or 7. Tune, what do you got, brother?
I'm gonna say. I know. I'm surprised. Everybody's saying 5 and 6. No, everybody's saying 5 in the sweep. So I'm gonna say, I remember last year I made a prediction with the Pacers. I said Cavs and 5, and that ended up, going sideways. Oh, but that was because multiple things with injuries and stuff. But I think the Cavs been the most healthy as they can be right now, and I think the Raptors right now, some of their players are banged up. IQ is banged up, and they center Jaco Poto, the center, he's banged up. So I'm looking at it as the Raptors, they have struggled against the top teams in the NBA. They have like a negative record against the top 10 teams, and that whole I think you brought it up already. They beat the Cavs in the regular season. Of course, they beat the Cavs in the regular season. We was banged up, and this was pretty much before James Harden even came to Cleveland, and we got the other guys, Keon Ellis and all them guys, and Dennis. So I just like the Cavs in 6. I don't hold too much weight on the regular season. The Cavs is kind of like got some new guys in, and we haven't seen them since that time. So they could be coming in this confident, like, we beat them in the regular season. They swept us. But this is the playoffs, so I'm rolling with the Cavs in 6. Different team. We have James Harden. We have the best backcourt. We have the best players in the series, period. So, yeah, I'm rolling with the Cavs in 6.
I'm going to say Cavs in 6. I'm going to say the Cavs win the first 2. Raptors win the 2 after, so they split home court. And then I think the Cavs win Game 5 in a close one. And then I think I'm going to say Game 6 on the road. I'm going to say Donovan Mitchell finally answers the bell and has his all-time, maybe one of his all-time best games, and closes out the series.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of those, man. Donovan had put on a couple of performances.
I think that's his great chance. I think this is kind of similar to 2016 in a way, going back to that 10 years ago. I remember we split the first 2. Bismack Biyombo was playing out of his mind, and then the
Oh,
Cavs
that's
kind of just
nice.
reeled it. They woke up and just reeled it back in. I think that's what's going to happen in this series. I think the Toronto will compete with the Cavs for the first 4 games.
Yeah, they make it interesting. Yeah,
But I don't think they have the efficiency offensively to keep up, because I think the Cavs should adjust to the trend. I mean, if you can't figure that out by now, the post. Do I have a lot of comments on them? Stopping the transition? No, because I didn't see them do it in the regular season enough. But they keep telling us it's about the postseason, so I'm gonna take their word for this series only, and say that they'll figure it out eventually. Yeah, eventually they'll put the effort, or maybe he'll bring Allen off the bench after Game 4, and we'll just roll like that. But I'm gonna say Cavs in 6, and I'm gonna say Donovan ends the series with a virtuoso.
So, yeah, not bad at all.
But that's what we got for you guys there. So make sure you guys like, subscribe, and share, obviously, because we'll be doing all Cavs coverage, all postseason, along with the post games as well. Right, so I'm planning on doing that. So, but Toon, I know you'll be covering the Cavs this whole postseason too. You want to tell them where to find you at?
Oh yeah, man. Like you see on the screen, man. Y'all can subscribe to Tune In Sports and Cavaliers Talk, where we mostly go live at to talk all Cavs. And you can find me on IG, Tune In Sports, man. So yeah, I do plan on, you'll find Joseph over there and Humble over there. When I do go live, or I might drop a video tomorrow, or go live sometime this week, But yeah, you'll find me over there, man. Yeah, I appreciate y'all. I appreciate you, Joseph.
Appreciate you, brother. And we will see you on the next one.
Absolutely. Salute, Humble.
See you later, buddy.
Shout out to Tune In Sports. Yeah, shout out to Tune. But I'm gonna get to, you know what time it is, Humble, don't you?
I do know what time it is.
What time is it?
It is commercial break time.
Close. It's mock draft. I thought you'd remember. But no, it's mock draft Monday. Here we go. Now, last 2 mock drafts, I had the Browns taking Caleb Downs at number 6. I had them taking, I think, Omar Cooper Jr. Remember that at number, I believe, yeah, I had him taking. Did I have him taking Omar Cooper? I believe. I think that's what I had, Humble. I had Omar Cooper at 24, and then I had them taking the best cornerback, or not. I had the first one. I had them taking a corner. I think last week I had them taking the best offensive tackle. I think it was Caleb Lamo I had last week. Last week I had Downs, Cooper, and Lamo. Well, my opinion, Humble, has changed since. Again, I know there were some reports put out today to expect anything with the Browns, that they may even trade up in the draft, that they may go defense, that anything can happen, right? Now, I want to put this out there right now. I don't think Myles Garrett's getting traded like I've been saying. I do think there's one team, though, that could intrigue them to trade for Myles Garrett pre-draft, and that's the Dallas Cowboys. If the Dallas Cowboys, and Mike and I talked about this the other day, if the Dallas Cowboys called and said, hey, obviously they have 2 first-round picks, number 12 and 20, and then they got a first-rounder next year, we'll give you all these picks, and you can we want Myles Garrett, or maybe they give you 12 and next year's first, and maybe CeeDee Lamb. I don't know if that's even, or then George Pickens. Hey, we'll give you George Pickens. I think the Browns may consider that, and that may change everything for their draft strategy, obviously, because you're trading your best player away. Right now, I still don't think Myles is getting traded before the draft. I think if Myles did get traded anytime, it would be in the future, maybe after next season or mid-season. Right now, I don't see it. Not saying it's not possible, but it could happen. But I think right now, there's a lot of smoke around who I think they'll take at number 6. So again, I'm going to do this mock draft real quick, and I'll get my man Hummel up here. We'll go to our next segment. I'll get through this real quick, though. So here we go now. I'm going to do my mock draft 4.0. And in this mock draft, so we're going to do 3 rounds PFF, no trades, just circle out the picks. Who would I take at that pick, right? And so here we go. So now, in this scenario, I have Ruben Bain here at number 5. I have David Bailey, who the Browns did bring in on a top 30 visit, who Mike and I talked about it Friday. We thought was kind of odd in some ways, because it kind of, and I know I saw Anthony Lama put out the tweet over the weekend, and some people were going off on him like, well, if you want to trade Miles, you would want David Bailey, right? Why are they bringing in David Bailey? And blah blah blah, right? But I don't think they're gonna trade Miles. I think they may use David Bailey as trade bait. Like if they're in this spot right here, right? David Bailey's right there, Caleb Downs is still there. I think they would try to get one of these teams to trade up where they can move down, maybe get an additional high-end pick for next year or even this year's draft, get a plus pick, right? So in this scenario, though, if they stay here at number 6, I think right now, if they stay at 6, I think they go Carnell Tate. I think there's just a lot of smoke with Carnell Tate and the Browns. I think the only way the Browns really trade out of number 6 and don't draft Carnell Tate, again, is if David Bailey fell or if a team really is desperate for Caleb Downs and Reuben Bain, maybe Dallas wants to trade from 12 and maybe they give the Browns an additional high-end pick. I think they would do that. But if they're in a scenario where their teams aren't calling to trade them up, like in this scenario, again, I can't do trades in this one, but if they call up and say, hey, we're not going to if they can't get, we don't want to trade you and to move up to get one of these guys, I think the Browns still go Carnell Tate. Me personally, I would consider David Bailey right there, but I would go Caleb Downs. I just think he's just too good to pass on. But I think, based on what I think the Browns are going to do, I think they would take Carnell Tate right here, which I'm not mad at all. I think Carnell, you can make the argument he's the best receiver in this draft. I think it's him, Jordan Tyson, or Mekhi Lemon be my top 3. I like those 3 guys. I like Denzel Boston. I like Omar Cooper Jr. But I think Tate, yeah, he played alongside Jeremiah Smith. I know a lot of people are knocking him on that. He only ran a 4.5, which to me, that's not a big deal. I mean, Puka Nacua is the best receiver in the NFL, in my opinion. He didn't run a great 40 either. That's as long as you get open consistently. And you look at if you want to play numbers, the guy averaged 17 yards a catch alongside Jeremiah Smith. That means, and he ran a 4.5 40. That means his route running is insane. That means he's always getting open. And what wins at the NFL? Consistently catching the ball, high level catches, consistency, and creating separation consistently, great route running. That's what he is. You can put him inside, you can put him outside. Carnell Tate's a baller. And he look a lot of tape. He's running by guys, and especially against Michigan, some of the bigger games, he's getting open. He made plays in the clutch moments. Carnell Tate's the real deal. Holy, don't let people fool you. Like, yeah, he played alongside another great receiver, Ohio State. That's what Ohio State is now. It's wide receiver. But Carnell Tate is the real deal. I think Carnell Tate's going to be a great player in the NFL, and I think this is a great pick for the Browns. So Carnell Tate, come on down. Now moving on to number 24 now, again, assuming they stay there. Now in this scenario, if I'm the Browns, I got to look at tackle, obviously. I had Denzel Boston, who's still there, who, if you want to double dip a receiver, he's still there. You got Caleb Lamu right there. Now, if I'm in charge right here, what would I do? What would I do? I got Terrell right there, the cornerback. I got Denzel Boston sitting there. I got Caleb Lamu. Now, the 2 tackles I have available is Lamu and Caden Proctor. Caden Proctor's raw ability is maybe as high as any tackle in this draft in terms of just raw talent. The guy is extremely talented, really athletic for a tackle. He's got a lot of work to do. Now, you also have Max Ihenacre. I can't remember his name. I like him a lot, too. He's pretty good. Caleb Lamu, to me, I like him a lot. He's consistent. I think he's solid. And they really produced a lot of good tackles out of Utah, especially on the coaching staff that now it's Michigan. Obviously, that's the old coaching staff that was there. In this scenario, though, I'm trying to think about it because, I look at my receiver room, right? I got Jerry Jeudy. I just drafted Carnell Tate. I got Isaiah Bond, but Isaiah Bond's not a starter to me. He's a guy you sub in. That's like he's like a 6-man out the bench, which is fine. He takes the top off the defense, right? Can do a little bit of everything. In terms of like the kind of the speed guys, what they can do, quick screen passes, get out, take the top off. But I need a left tackle too. And tackle's the most important position in sports. I got George Warhop, or not. What am I talking about? Not the most important position in sports. It's the second most important position, I think, after quarterback in football. I'm sorry, I misspoke. I was thinking of quarterback for a minute because I saw Ty Simpson down here and I saw QB. And so I think because quarterback is the most important position in sports. Don't get it twisted. But in football, after quarterback, I think a left tackle, in my opinion, is just important. Because, second most. That you could say that or pass rusher, but you got to have a left tackle. You can't protect the quarterback's blind side. You're not going to be able to have long success. Caden Proctor, I think there's a lot of smoke there with him and the Browns. I think they like George Warhop. Obviously, he's kind of a Bill Callahan-esque guy. I think some of Caden Proctor's knock is a little, I don't want to say overblown. I get some of the knocks. I think they're valid, but I think it's not as bad as some people are saying. I think George Warhop at number 24. I'm going to go with Caden Proctor. Again, I think that's a great pick, and you're banking on your coach to get it done. So I'm cool with that. Now I got Caleb Lamu sitting here at number 38. I got the kid out of cornerback out of South Carolina still there, right? I still got Caleb Lamu still there. Chase Pasonis is there, right? So I got some guys here. Now, what would I do here? In this scenario, I think you may try to trade down a couple picks, maybe pick up another second. I don't know if that's possible, but I would go with cornerback here, and I would just go with the best guy available. Brandon Siss out of South Carolina. I would have went with D'Angelo Pons, but he won a pick before. So in this scenario, I think I'm going to go with this guy right here, Brandon Siss, South Carolina. And so, again, this is based on what I think the Browns are going to do, not what I would do. If it was what I was going to do, I probably actually would have double dipped the receiver back here. I would have took probably Denzel Boston and just took Lamu right there. That's what I would have did personally. And then I would have taken Ibn Nosen right here. So now we're back here. Right. Now we're here at the 70th pick. What do I think the Browns would do here? Right. And I'm looking at the board here. I got some receivers there. I got Kamari Ramsey there to safety. Anthony Hill, the linebackers there. I think he's a sleeper. I think that's a big drop for him. You know, I'm going to say, what do I think the Browns would do here? I'm going to take Andrew Berry by his own words, right? And what I mean, Andrew Berry said it's going to be a big overhaul on offense this offseason. They're going to use a lot of capital there. They took Carnell Tate. I think they go with an excellent guy who I think is a sleeper. If I could find him on here, unless he was taken already. Was he taken? Let me look. Give me 1 second. My apologies. And it's a guy Mike brought up who I think they're really going to be fascinated with. I don't see him. Okay, I guess Skylar Bell's off the board. He must have already went. Excuse me. So Skylar Bell's, that's the guy I was going to take. I guess he was already taken. They had him going in the second round. So I think in this scenario, I would go with the next best guy who I think is a very good high volume guy who's productive, Zachariah Branch out of Georgia. I think that's where they would go. I think they would go receiver right there, try to get more of a slot guy. Guy can move inside out. He's a guy he's very consistent. He gets open, right? I think Chris Brazzell, who was also there, is an interesting name as well, or Malachi Fields. But there you go. That's my mock draft this week. This is off mainly what I think the Browns are going to do. And I think right now they go Tate, assuming they don't do any trades. I think they go Carnell Tate at 6, A- there they gave it. I think they go Caden Proctor at 24, if that's where they stay. A- there. I think they take the best defensive back on the board. And I had Brandon Siss out of South Carolina at 39. They gave it B-. And then I think at 70, they take another receiver to bolster that room more. I think they go Zachariah Branch out of Georgia. They give a B+, and a B+ overall, great for the draft. So this draft right here, I'm really not that mad at. I like it. I think it's solid. I think it's productive. I think it fits the needs you have. I think there's a lot of guys like Tate and Proctor I think can really be a lot better than people are even projecting them. I think Carnell Tate has number one talent. He could be as good as he wants to be. Caden Proctor could be as good as he wants to be. Zachariah Branch could be a very good number 2 in this league, I think. So, and then Brandon Siss, he could be a very physical cornerback that you can put alongside Denzel and Tyson Campbell. Put him down in the nickel if you want. I like that a lot. So I think this could be a very good draft right here in terms of filling out your team of what you need and setting it up for your quarterback, whether it's this guy, if you get the quarterback this year, if it's Shador, or if you take another one next year, you're helping support that guy and build out your team. So there you have it. Mock draft 4.0. Yeah. Turn that off. There you have it, mock draft 4.0, and I'll do another one next week, 5.0. The fifth one will be my last one, obviously, because we're 10 days out from the draft. So stay tuned this week. Subscribe to The Real, because my man Mike Antonis will be the professional fan. He'll have his second mock draft, and we'll be keeping you guys up to date on all the news and anything we think is significant ahead of the draft. So stay tuned for that. But also stay tuned here on this episode, because we're not done yet. Humble and I are going to do a real-life discussion when we come back. I know you guys have been enjoying those, so don't go anywhere. Stick around.
Because people put labels on you, sometimes people believe them. After a lot of, constantly people saying, "Oh, you're this, you're that," you'll never do this, you'll never be like that, whatever. Sometimes
I think this is important. I wrote this down right here because this is key for people our age, especially somebody like me who's 23, single. Is not to don't wear the labels the world might say you are. And so people could tell me in my life, some of the things in my personal life, obviously because we're good friends, but certain things maybe I haven't achieved yet because of what happened to me, just because of circumstances. But if I were to keep wearing that label of I don't have X, Y, and Z yet, or if I would go by the world standards and the pressure. And sometimes even your own family. And, he even said in the sermon earlier, he said, sometimes the wisest thing for you to do, nobody will agree with you. Literally nobody. And that could be it could be everybody around you. But as long as you listen to the voice and you can feel that conviction, why should you be afraid? Why not? What's there to be, that should give you somewhat of a confidence, and that's hard to do because when everybody around you is telling you what to do, you can start to wear I could have started to wear those labels and started to I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today though. I can tell you that I'd be in a deep hole. So I guess kind of what we talked about this in our last episode we did too, back I think it was like in October, about being bold and courageous, and because that's really what it is. I think surrendering, it takes a leap of courage, of faith. And so I guess kind of what are the things that have helped you in your past, or what some words of encouragement people out there, especially our age, watching about, being bold and courageous and not wearing your past, not wearing the labels and all that?
It's something that's, it's easier said than done, but you definitely have to try to surrender. Surrender it all to God. Giving it to Him, laying at the foot of the cross, and just trusting Him through it all. Because people put labels on you. Sometimes people believe them. After a lot of constantly people saying, "Oh, you're this, you're that," you'll never do this, you'll never be like that, whatever. Sometimes you believe them. After hearing it enough, and then at the end of the day, it's just lies. But you have to trust that, Christ is going to set you free. As He said He will. You just got to take the first step and surrender it to Him first before He takes it. Because He's not going to do it forcefully. He's going to do it. He wants you to take the first leap of faith.
All right, welcome back. Time to move on to our next and last topic of the show, the most important one, our favorite topic, our real life discussions. Humble, welcome on back into the show.
Thanks, Joe.
Humble, I'm gonna put this up in the screen. I'm gonna read it first, and I want you to break it down because you sent this to me last week. And it says, and I have some thoughts on this, but I'll let you go first. It says, now that you know the truth, you can never go back. And I believe that is by Cassandra Clare from picturequotes.com. So shout out to them. Shout out to Cassandra Clare. But Humble, you want to kind of react to this and why this stood out to you, and how does it? What's your relation to it? Why does it hit you? If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Because it's
why did it touch your heart? Go ahead.
Well, it's like I think about like my adult self versus my child self all the time. I think everyone has a child self, a humor. It's just always about feeling comfortable and letting that out as far as the right people and who you're surrounded by, and knowing when you can let it out, and being sure, not sure of when to let it out. Um, but it goes back to like thinking about the innocence of like doing things as a kid, doing things. And everyone always, when I was younger, I used to do things without even thinking about it. And growing up, I'd always hear the voice being like, you need to think before you do, you know. Uh, um, and not try to, what's the word I'm trying to look for? I was more of type of, I had to learn the hard way, and I'm such a hands-on type of guy that it's like you can't go back to that self. I, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I guess it's just knowing that when you're older, you can't really go back to um being younger, and just having that self. I don't know what I'm trying to say really is,
I
Joe. I
think what
really
you're
know.
trying to say is you can't go back to the things that, at least what I think what you're trying to say, because you said, you made a lot of choices back in the day that you didn't really think about, that you
Yeah.
wish you thought more about. I think I think what you're trying to say is, you can't go back to the things that made you that person you don't really,
Right.
it's not
Yeah.
healthy for you to be.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was trying to say. Thank you for putting all. It's like a puzzle. Thank you for doing that. Yeah, it's
Oh,
been a
you're
long
good.
day. But no, yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say. Seriously.
That's funny you say that because it's number one, it's real, but mine's kind of different how I relate to this. So, like, I guess I'll give you guys kind of like, so, yeah, I haven't really given an update in a while, kind of where I've been in terms of my, obviously my first video I ever did on this channel is what I'm most known for when I came out after a 7-year hiatus from everybody, and about where I had been, the anxiety, over the journey went through with severe anxiety and panic and depression and agoraphobia, which was basically, there was times where I could leave my house for a year at a time. You know what I mean? And it was a rough period from the ages of 15 to 24, really. Um, During that time span, I started this when I was 22. So even the first 2 years, I was still in the latter end of that and getting out of that. And I shared where my progress was during that time along the way. A lot of my older videos were more anxiety educational videos and just, sharing it because that's what people were wanting at the time. Then I slowly mixed in more sports. But now obviously as I 2 years ago, and I finally moved past that in my life, and I surrendered to the Lord a lot of things, and just closed a lot of chapters in my life finally that I need to let go of, and really just healed a lot of things and moved forward in my life. God really restored my life back, and I truly could say I overcame that, moved beyond it. And that's why I always say now, not just more anxiety, beyond anxiety. And shout out the anxiety guy, go subscribe to him. It's obviously his sayings, and I could relate to those wholly and fully. And so, um, with that though, I think there's times though where when you're the biggest thing you have post anything you come out, anything traumatic, whether it's a disorder like I went through, whether you spent time in jail, whether you went through a period in your life where you were down low, maybe you had an addiction, maybe you were, um, maybe you're a missionary overseas or whatever, whatever phase in your life that you had to get out of and you move beyond, right? That you're not, you're past that now. I think a lot of times the biggest fears we project the past into the future. And I think a lot of times we're always like, for me, I know this, and a lot of what I've had to look at to help me get over and move on fully is people actually who spent time in jail. Because a lot of people who spent time in jail, and Humble, you and I talk about this, a lot of times when you're in jail, where you're constantly looking over your shoulder, right? You form a lot of habits. You're in isolation. You become a kind of a different person. It hardens you in a way, obviously, and so it's what it's for. At least, and especially if it worked for you effectively. Um, and that's why a lot of times when people get out, they're so afraid of going back. Shout out to the toe goat, Eben. I'm gonna get on the show soon to talk about his story. He says it all the time that his biggest thing when he got out is I never want to go back to that cage, he called it, those cells. He spent 6 years, right? And it was 6 years too much for him. A lot of times for me is like I'm not going back to where I was. I don't want to go back. And I think something I had to realize, Humble, in the last like year And I think I really found it more 6 months ago was, my biggest fear was always, man, like anytime I felt like a sign of what I used to feel or a fear or a thought that used to send me in a spiral, anytime I like that, sometimes now even, I go through it even today, I kind of went through it a little bit where it's like, man, am I going back to where I used to be? I have to realize that the truth is I'm not. And God has shown me that. First I had somebody who's a very important person in my life tell me that recently, about 6, 7 months ago, no pun intended, or maybe 8 months ago. Last year, they told me, they're like, that's not going to happen, Joe. Just flat out. They're like, it's not going to happen. They're like, the God didn't bring you this far to let you go backwards. He didn't set you up to fail. He had a purpose for what he did back then, and I know the reasons why he did it, and some I share publicly. A lot of it's personal that I know why he did what he did in my life, and not just for me, but people around me and even my own family and stuff. But that chapter's over with. But times where I know that's the truth, and the truth is God's he's never gonna let me go back to that, and he showed me that over and over again within the last year, because I've asked him that, really solidify that belief in me. And every time I feel like I'm going down, whether it's a day, the next day, or that night, he comes back and shows me something that's like, no, you're not going back to that. That's over with. Like, this is who you are now. This is where you belong to be. This is where you're meant to be. This is who you really are. That was a phase in your life that I had to use you for. It's over with. And so I think now that I know that truth, I can't ever go back to that. I will I will never go back to that. And so like it says there, now that you know the truth, you can never go back. Well, I know the truth, and the truth is I'm never going back to where I was, which I'm thankful for. And praise my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for that. All praise to him and my family and people around, my friends around me that helped me along the way. Even you, Humble, who helped me in the last couple of years. So, especially last year. So, I now that I know that, I'm just sharing something. I try to share some of my story, how it relates to me, to how maybe it relates to what you guys. Maybe it's a different way, like Humble shared. He knows the truth of what he can't do and what he shouldn't do, because it takes him back to be the person he doesn't want to be. You know what I mean? And so I think that's something we all go through in life, especially around our age group. I'm 26, Humble's what, 25, 24?
25. Yeah.
So I think this is kind of like really common too for people our age, but really any age group. I know adults who are in their 40s, they're in their 50s even, that are still going through it's 60s even, that are still going through this in certain areas of their life. So, I think it's something we all face maybe once or twice in our life, but I think it's, to me, there's a lot of things you can apply this to, but I think just personally, it's, Humble. I think like you said, and what I was shared, it's, when you come out of high school, man, or even during high school, in the college, in your early 20s, that's a transitional time in your life, and that could be a very scary time in your life. It could be a very troubling time in your life. It could be some had good times, but it could be a lot of bad times. It's a very up and down. It's a very wavy time. I don't know if you went through that, or did you get that in those years? To me, it was
yeah.
very wavy. You're trying to find yourself, your identity, what you want to do with your life. Like, it can be very unsettling.
100%.
And so, I think with that, I think it's something we all go through in this period of our lives. But I don't know, Humble, that's what I got. You gotta take on what I had to say, or anything you want to add more to that?
Yeah, kind of just like a little quick story, like with me, like same with like going back to your anxiety. Like, I remember as a kid at the swimming pools back in the day, man, just my mom, she would give me maybe $5, $10 and be like, go up to the concession stand, get whatever you want. She was busy doing whatever she was doing. As a little boy, I'm like, shoot, this is great. This is awesome. And I'm walking over to the concession stand, and now I know everyone's had it. You're looking at that concession stand as a kid, and you're like, you see so much that you can't even really read. You just know that you want something, and you're like, and you get the anxiety. I had that anxiety back in the day of not being able to read an order that I want, or feel as if that I would get scared by asking for an order, and I'd have the anxiety, Joe, of being able of them to say, yeah, we don't have that on the menu, and I'd get upset in my head and stuff. And I used to just tell myself, now that I'm adult, you don't need to be scared. They just don't have it. It's don't feel it. That's just anxiety. Now that you know it, you know what I mean? Don't be afraid to you earned that money. Don't be afraid to be scared to ask for something that you want. You know, this is your world at the end of the day. So don't be scared to get what you want, or you got to be selfish sometimes in life. If that's what you want and that's what your body is craving and that's what you feel as if you deserve, and then cheers to you. You know, cheers to that for you for acknowledging that, hey, like this is what I want right out of life. And now that you know the truth, you can't go back, kind of like that, you know, because I was scared, you know, so scared to just have an interaction with someone that I'd never known and don't even know they're making my food. How can I trust this person? I always had that fear, man. I always had that phobia growing up.
Yeah, that's a great one. That you shared a great story. And you know what that made me think of, Humble? It's actually something I've had to work through in the last couple months that I've been more aware of. That I've always been aware, but really I've been working on it more hard recently. And I've shared this with you. You know, when you go through a experience like I did at 15 years old, where you feel like the world was against you, and you know there was a lot of things that people around me I feel like weren't, you know, doing what I felt was necessary to help me at the time, and I feel like people were making. I feel like people around me were making things worse when I went through that experience at 15. You know, and I felt embarrassed every day. Just the whole thing. When you come out of something like that, a lot of times that can put a psychosis kind of in your head of like whenever like somebody could be out and you could be out in public, somebody could just joke around with you, make a joke towards you, or somebody could say something to you, and it may just rub you the wrong way at first. And a lot of times it's a mechanism where you feel like people are personally attacking you constantly, right?
100%, Joe. 100%.
And that's something I've had to really learn. Like that's why I like to talk about people in prison when they get out of prison. A lot of times I know, and this is a serious thing. I'm not making a joke. Like when they go to Walmart or someplace like they're afraid of, they think when they hear a noise or they feel like people that struggle with PTSD. Maybe they served in the military. I know somebody who served in the military and he struggled when they heard certain things. He would, you know, feel like he would snap. Not say snap, but sometimes he would get in like a mode where he'd panic for a minute because he feel like he was back in, you know, flashbacks. And I think it's like a mechanism where or like I had to deal with, where you feel like people are constantly attacking you person. And I think the thing I had to realize, Humble, was what happened to me back then had to happen. A, because God allowed it to happen, but also B, it was a misunderstanding. It wasn't people and people that hurt me back then told me, had they known what I went through at that time, they would have handled it a much different way. Complete 180. And so that gives me peace, and they apologize for it. You know what I mean? And I should forgive them, but also I'm commanded to, you know, and that's how you heal and move forward, beyond let that weight go. You know, I got to give a shout out to my guy, Caleb, who I work with. He gave a sermon to the kids Friday, and he mentioned that about letting the backpack. He put a backpack on. He said, when you carry weight of unforgiveness and not love and forgiveness that's Christ-like, you carry the weight, you know what I mean? And it just eventually buries you down where the backpack's too heavy, and you got to let it go. And so, you know, I think that's something I've had to work on, Humble. And I know the truth. It's like people aren't attacking me personally. Even if somebody says something, if you're out driving or you're out somewhere and somebody says something to you or flips you, it don't matter. Like, don't take things. Not everything's personal. You know, not everything's like, you know. I think the mindset now, especially. And I know a lot of guys that come from rough backgrounds. They always think they got to show how tough they are, or they got to show everybody nowadays has got to be out to prove themselves that they're, especially men. We got to be like we're some Billy badass, whatever. Man, that's all joke. You know what I mean? Like that's just your pride and your ego. Once you surrender that to the Lord and just surrender that and let that go and realize that even if somebody does say something to you, who gives a you know what? Like who cares? You know what I mean? Like you have to develop that mindset and just be like, that's not my problem. That's their problem. And once you have more of that compassion towards people and just like pray for them and let it go and just, man, it's so freeing. And you actually find what I've found, Humble, is that I actually have great interactions with people now all the time, because somebody may say something to me that I may have taken the wrong way in the past or maybe a year ago, but now it's like I turn into a conversation with somebody. And then you realize who that person really is. You know what I mean?
No, 100%. And I was just going to say, I was taking it back to one of your points as far as going to when you were saying a couple of prisoners and stuff. It's true, because even like a guy with anger problems growing up back in the day, I would feel as if, I mean, it's true. You got to rewire your brain. You got to bite your tongue. And like how you said, that's a perfect point. You now you're making it into a conversation because I literally had it was yesterday, Joe. One of my buddies, we're just talking, playing Xbox, and he's angry, and I literally had to ask him, "Hey, man, relax." Like, but really, now I'm wondering why you're mad. Like, hey,
Yeah.
where's this coming from? You know what I mean? It's funny that you said it because it makes you rewire your brain, and it's funny how you said also, when you have that now, a lot of people. It's kind of funny how my talk on my channel and stuff. A lot of the baddest guys on the planet that know that they can f you up, they'll just walk away just because they know how badly it will be. You know what I mean? It's just they don't even want to get into that. You know what I mean? Just because they
Saw
won't
recently
even.
with John Jones.
Right. But great example, Joe.
That incident, I don't know if you guys did see where he got into road rage and the guy got out of the car and he got out. He now get the guy the finger in his face, but the guy knew who he was, and John just got back in his car, and I think they both just agreed, like, let's just end this right here and walk away.
Right.
So then you got to
Right.
swallow your pride.
You have to. I mean, that's a perfect example, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, I thought of that. And the last part I'll share, like when I went through the bad spouts of health anxiety, where I was constantly worrying about my health and things, of hypochondria, and I know a lot of people can relate to that, especially since like COVID. That's been a big thing for a lot of people. Um, you know, I think like I get in spouts now where it's like, hey, if I didn't sleep for a couple nights, or if I don't feel well, or whatever, the things that used to make me dwell and turn on Dr. Google, go look at the most dramatic scenario that didn't apply to me. I'm a healthy young male. You know what I mean? Like now it's like I know the truth, and I can't allow myself to go back to that mindset. Like, hey,
Right.
what everybody else goes through, whether it's health, whether those thoughts, like, you know what I mean? Like whatever I'm going through, everybody else. And I think once you give yourself that kind of grace and understanding, it's, man, I think you just, again, it's about taking the weight off your shoulders. It just helps you see things more clearly, because when you're under stress or pissed off or whatever, you're not thinking straight. You kind of got a foggy view of what's really reality sometimes. But
And
go
what
ahead, Hobo.
last thing, and I promise I'm done. It's it
Oh,
because
you're good.
we could talk about this all day because we
Yeah.
like talking like this stuff. But my mom, she was telling me how, like, she was like, if your algorithm on your social media, she's like, if you see all these sad things on your social media, she was telling me a long time ago, you see all these sad posts and you keep liking them, well, all you're gonna see is sad stuff and think sadly. She was like, you need to cut some of that out. It's okay to see a couple of sad things here and there, but to know that you can limit that. And I also had uh um I went to boarding schools, and I had it wasn't a teacher or anything. It was a night staff, and they check on us while we're sleeping to make sure everything's good and stuff. But her name was Laura, and this is not a joke. I had headphones on, and I'm listening to some sad music, and she walks up without me even knowing. She walks up and she heard the sad music. I'm blasting it, um, and and the next morning I wake up, and she come and I come to get breakfast, and she pulls me aside. She says, "Hey, I paused your music last night." I says, "What?" I didn't wake up or nothing. She says, "Yeah, that music that you're listening to, it's rewiring your brain to think sadly. I don't want you to go to sleep listening to sad music. You keep listening to sad music, you're gonna wake up sad. You're gonna feel sad. You're gonna think that this life is sad." She was like, "Life is great. You just gotta remind yourself how great it truly is." And that's how I just wanted to end this discussion, because now that you know the truth, you can never go back, right? You don't want to listen to sad music all the time. It's okay to listen to a sad song here and there, hear it on the radio, whatever. But just me and Joe, we love that '80s music, man. It's just something about the instruments or something. But it's true, man. It's a lot of this modern stuff that they're putting out. It's just, yeah, it's the devil's music, man.
Yeah, and yeah, what's being pushed in the algorithms on social media platforms, and I remember I was always told growing up, such my authority figures, what you see and hear is eventually what you become. What you see and hear the most is what you eventually become. And just like who the top 3 people you hang around with, a lot of times you start to be like them in a way. So you better have that's like Joey Diaz said, as long as you find 3 solid people in your life, you could take over a country. But,
Yeah.
I think what you see and hear eventually is what you become, and I think I've definitely went through that in my life in spouts. Because when I was focused on worldly things and stuff like that, or what I do now, even sometimes I start to get back and feel anxious and feel down. And I'm like, okay, now I have the awareness. Like, okay, I know the truth. I know how to get out of it, so I don't go back to that. And I won't go back to that. But I know what's good for me now and what's not. And that's a very refreshing place to be. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But great stuff, Humble, as always. That was an awesome conversation. That might be our best one. Yeah, we've had some pretty good ones. And that might be the most in-depth one we've had. Yeah, that was pretty good. But
Yeah.
Humble, you want to tell people they can subscribe to your channel and find you? Obviously, you had the UFC this past weekend, so I know you have some content coming, but where can they find you at?
Yeah, guys, you guys can just find me at HumbleMan MMA, and we'll be getting some content out there soon. And yeah, I appreciate you guys coming over, and don't forget to like Joe's stream. And this is what it's all about. My teacher just asked me today, "What do you got planned today?" I said, "We're talking about some real stuff on YouTube, man, my buddy." And this is what it's all about, man. We care about putting out good messages and sharing with the world, and taking care of each other, man. So, like and subscribe, and we'll be back at it as always.
Absolutely. Shout out to our guy. He said humble is so humble. To our guy Tunin Sports in the chat now. Make sure you guys go subscribe to Tunin Sports as well, at Cavaliers Talk as well. That's his main channel now, but go subscribe to both of them. And like he said, he'll be putting out content here this week as well about the Cavs. So you might see us pull up over there as well. You never know. But yeah, like and subscribe. So appreciate all you guys. Like, subscribe, share all that good stuff. And I will see you the next one. We're out of here. Gone.